Hi everyone, welcome to episode 15 of the Drake, Michigan podcast. Today's guest is Julie Ann Horrox. Julie has been a specialist in the field of breathwork for the last 24 years, which has enabled her to travel all over the world and meeting some fantastic people. And she's here today to demonstrate and show you and share her stories all about the power of breathwork. Now, before we introduce Julie, I want to have a quick shout out to our sponsors who we rely on to help fund the Drake, Michigan project. And for those of you that don't know, believe it or not, it is me personally and my businesses that at the moment put money into the pot to keep the Drake, Michigan project going. So we have Atlantis Property Developments Limited, Apollo, Windows and Doors, and also Estimate My Plans. Now, the only reason I've told you that is because as the numbers continue to grow on the podcast and on Facebook and on YouTube and everywhere else, what we will do is people who are in this field, the holistical or the truth movement and anything else, if you would like your business or your profession advertised or sponsored on the podcast or anywhere else on the Drake, Michigan platform, then please get in touch and we're more than happy to replace any of my businesses, which are like a separate thing really, with things that are a little bit closer to home, like holistical businesses, treatments, Reiki, angel healing, any of this kind of stuff. So get in touch with us if that's what you want to do. Thanks very much. And here is Julie. Okay, so we're here with episode 15, I believe.
Episode 15.
Episode 15 of the Drake, Michigan podcast. And we're very fortunate and lucky to have today a lady of over 24 years experience who is the founder of the Sovereignty Professional Breathwork Training Program.
Wonderful.
And that lady is Julie Ann Horrox. Welcome, Julie. Thanks for joining us today on the Drake, Michigan podcast.
Great to see you again.
Great to be here.
Now, a lot of people will take for granted a lot of things in life, like the moon and the stars and everything else. And I think when we talk about breathing, a lot of people would take that for granted.
Well, I started breathing and I was all right, I think.
Well, because we come out of the mother's womb, if you like, breathing, I don't think anyone ever gives it much thought, but it's one of the most natural things, and people probably don't even realise they might have been doing it wrong. So we're going to get right into that now. We've been fortunate enough. Julie has we're going to show on the video, Julie's just done a fantastic introduction of the breath work and how to breathe, where you can feel your breath from your tummy and your heart, and we'll explain that in more detail to people. So just moving on from that introduction, Julie, is there a right way or a wrong way to breathe?
Good question. Yes and no.
Right.
Okay. So, yes, there's an optimal way to breathe for optimum health and well-being. There's a particular way to breathe where we're using our diaphragm. But there's nothing wrong with the way that anybody breathes, because most of us have learnt to breathe dysfunctionally to keep ourselves safe from our pain in the past. So in that way, there's no wrong way to breathe. But what I teach people is to breathe correctly in a way, or breathe so that we're receiving the most energy, the most love, the most joy, and we're integrating our painful past.
Okay. So just what's good. So like someone like me, like it's all new to me, this, and I'm going to learn today with yourself a lot more. So stuff I've learned from the past is almost like, breathe in through your nose, out through your nose, in through your nose, hold your breath, out through your nose. And, and you wear, it's a bit like when you do sit-ups, like they'll say, you're supposed to breathe out when you do a sit-up, or breathe in, and all these kind of things. So what would you say would you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth?
Okay. So, normally in everyday life, we need to breathe through our nose because our nose has got little hairs in it. It filters. It's also, we need to normally, in normal day life, breathe through our nose. That's the healthiest way to breathe. But if we want to clear energy blocks from our system, mouth breathing for a short period of time in a specific way drops us into the subconscious and it clears. It integrates.
That's interesting. That's
past painful experiences.
So, in short, how fundamental and important is understanding the breath?
It's key to everything. So no matter how much work you've done, how much healing you've done, if you're not breathing correctly, it will just affect everything.
Really?
Because absolutely, because breath is life. Breath is our connection to life. In fact, in Latin, the word breath is spiritus. So breath is spirit.
Oh, interesting.
So
that's interesting.
So if we're not breathing correctly, in a way, if we're not breathing and receiving the most good into our life, then it's a dysfunctional breath. And we use our breath to control our emotions. Yeah. So we're all human and we don't like to feel pain, do we? So if I was to catch my elbow on the door on the way in, what is the first thing that I'd do? I might swear.
You might swear, but you would have a sharp and take a breath. Yeah.
We hold our breath because we don't want to feel life's pain. So we hold and control our breathing to suppress our emotions.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what your question was.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, because what I wanted to ask them was, so like, is it possible, like, you could sort of, with the breath, understand where people have got sort of blockages or trauma or issues in their life from?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. So we hold, we control our breathing when we don't want to feel life's pain. So we hold, we control, our diaphragm starts to get stuck, our breathing becomes restricted. So we're not in that optimal breath, we're in survival breath. Yeah, so that's what I mean. There's no wrong way to breathe because we've used that, our fight or flight mechanism gets triggered when we have trauma. And so that helps us to keep safe. If it was, there was a lot of shouting going on in our families and we went into shutdown and held our breath, that kept us safe. So that breath wasn't wrong then. Yeah. But now in life, as people are opening up and wanting to heal and wanting to understand and let go of that painful past, the breath is key to do that because that's where we hold and control and we hold on to a lot of trauma. Plus the trauma's stuck in the muscles of the body. So I work with the flow of the breath, opening the flow of the breath, but I also work with body work, finding the blocks and the trauma stuck in the muscles of the body. So I work with both body work and breath.
Can I ask you then, so if a child has, even a baby has a moment of being born is trauma, I suppose, in a way. So that, are we programmed from that moment that our breathing is not correct?
I'll go right back actually to when you said, what did you say? When we're born, we're breathing.
Yes.
It's not necessarily.
That's not accurate.
No, not necessarily true. So we have consciousness right from the moment of conception. So the moment we're conceived and we're carried in our mother's womb, whatever our mother is thinking, feeling, we could be swimming in a soup of toxicity of negative programming before we're even born.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And when we're born, actually, we don't necessarily breathe straight away. So there's a really good book called Birth Without Violence that I'm just rereading now because I'm writing the training program. And actually we should be born, still stay attached to the cord, come out, not necessarily breathe straight away. The baby should choose when it breathes. One of the main reasons we're so easily controlled is because, now I'm not sure if it's done now, smack the baby on the bottom.
Of course, well that's instant trauma, isn't it?
Instant trauma.
Yeah.
So the first breath can be life's dangerous, life's scary, people hurt me.
Because they program you to think
safe.
that you know, you want to hear the baby cry, otherwise there's a problem.
No, and do you know what? Because that same thing, and you're elaborating it more on now. But we touched on this with a guest last week about the smack of the bum. And also, I come across where modern Western world, or I don't, might be all over the world, where they cut the umbilical cord too quickly.
Yes,
and they're trying to... So
even interfering with the birth process, because most mothers can give birth naturally, vaginally, go through, but there's so much fear around birth, and it's been so controlled.
It's unbelievable when you look at it.
That actually if there were really well-trained midwives who trusted that process more. I was really lucky to have my third child have a private midwife who was amazing, who actually they would have given me a cesarean because
that's what they do.
But she coached me through the whole thing, actually took me back out the birthing pool into hospital and led me through a normal birth, and that makes such a difference to the child.
I can imagine, and this is where people don't realise the trauma is happening from, let's be honest, before day one of birth.
Well, from the moment of conception through that and through the birth process. So there's so much trauma that comes from getting stuck.
And also you've already got, you're already carrying the consciousness trauma of your parents because of whatever's happening in their life.
They're carrying their life's trauma and their parents' trauma.
Then you've got the trauma when you come out, right? And then obviously they cut. So basically, that's being took out your control, cutting your umbilical cord, smacking you on the bum, all this kind of stuff. That's why a lot of people
are choosing to have doulas and birth at home and trust the process.
What I was going to say as well, so like just the same as we're saying, like most people take for granted breath, right? But people take for granted like a woman giving birth to a child, and I said this a few weeks back, if you remember. We don't sort of give women the respect and the whole childbirth thing. It's sort of just someone else. It doesn't get any publicity, any respect.
It's very empowering when you go through that life and death process, and I've done that 3 times. It's so empowering when you feel like you're almost going to die and you actually give birth. That's very empowering, and it's taking that empowerment away from women by making so many more women.
There has been an attack on women then for a long time, really, and you think about it, especially what's going on in the world now.
The woman's power has been taken away.
100%.
And isn't it funny how the planet is now bringing back the feminine and bringing back the woman's power? Because for hundreds of years it's been taken away from the woman, even down to her rights and everything else.
Even to give birth naturally. And I'm sure there are cases and places where absolutely having that, having cesareans has saved lives, but I'm meaning generally across the board. There's a lot of women who are made to believe they can't give birth because it suits the doctors, it suits the hospital, because then they're not, they're worried about getting sued and things going wrong. And
also there'll be a massive money aspect somewhere along the line to get them in and get them the treatment. And
they'll have a protocol to follow and they'll think they'll be doing exactly the right thing, but ultimately it will be down to money be one thing, but then obviously on a wider scale is to create trauma for that individual.
But it's amazing how people listening now, they could be in the middle of their lives if they like, but not realising this trauma could have happened when you were in the womb of your mother, if you like,
and through the birth process,
and then the birth process, and then what I was going to say was, so you've got trauma after trauma, and then when you do pop out, then wait till they find out that basically they take all your legal rights off you, and then they introduce the straw man and all the legal side of it.
Motherfuckers.
My third child, Daisy, when I had her and I had this private midwife, she said to me, "You don't have to register, and I didn't realise what that meant. I didn't know. She was really switched on. She knew about the straw man, obviously.
Julie, I'm 45 years of age, and it's only been in this last 12 months. I did not know nothing about this. I did not know all about this registering at birth, your legal entity, the whole Wizard of Oz and everything else. But the thing is, when people are waking up now, and so many people are waking up, these are all linked. So basically, everything from being in your mother's womb, which is the water and everything else, and then your umbilical.
Then you're losing your sovereignty.
And you're losing.
That's why I'm calling myself sovereignty breathwork.
That's a beautiful name. I love it. And do you know what? And that plays into other people who teach other things. And so this sovereignty is so powerful.
Yeah.
And also it comes back to people regaining their true power of who they are.
And that's what we want to try and achieve with people, isn't it? You know, to be. It's not education. It's just to find yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, before we go more into the breathe work, so I noticed you've actually worked with some fantastic people all over the world. Now, these are names that I'm not familiar with, but you can bring it, because people who are in the breathwork circles, they will certainly know. So there's Leonardo Orr.
Leonard Orr,
sorry. Just pull me up if I get it wrong.
He's the great-grandfather of breathwork. He brought breathwork to the West. He trained Judith Kravitz, he trained Sondra Ray, all of the...
And that's a few...
And Stanislav Grof, who was working with LSD, and then the rug got pulled on that, didn't it? And then Stanislav Grof was like, what can I do now to raise consciousness? So he then trained with Leonard, and that's holotropic breathwork. So all of the roots of breathwork started really with Leonard Orr.
And you've had the pleasure of being in their company and working with them. So that pulls me then to a good thing. So how do we go? What happens in life? How do we get into breathwork? How do you know what I mean?
How did you get into breathwork?
How did you get into breathwork? Did you just wake up one morning, cooking the kids breakfast and say...
Okay, well, you don't like watch Coronation Street and then get into breathwork. You've probably, I don't know, maybe, done Reiki, done other stuff.
Yeah,
first. You're introduced to energy work or healing work or psychedelics, or people have come into it from all different routes.
Yeah.
And so how I got into it was my daughter was taken off me, and I was so traumatized, she was only 7, that it brought up massive rage. My whole body was covered in eczema. Wow. They said my doctor in Macclesfield said it was the worst eczema he'd ever seen. I went to Manchester Royal, so-called skin experts, who told me there was no cure and I'd be on steroids for the rest of my life. And I thought, fuck that. Because they said...
the quicker doing that, aren't they?
Well, they said if it gets really bad, we'll take you in and we'll wrap you in wet bandages. I think that's when I went, fuck that.
So this wasn't just your average case of eczema. This was
this was
severe.
All over.
And do you think this was your body's reaction to the trauma?
Yes,
and so basically it was coming out.
So having that trauma, but then there were other things. There were other questions that wanted answering. I was shouting at my kids like my dad had, or like mum, getting really angry with them, and I was like, I couldn't slide a credit card between, it felt like, my reaction, and I was like, I'm going to pass on this pattern.
So this is like conditioning.
Conditioning, the reaction to kids, shouting at them, telling them off, because that's how our parents behaved, and they did the best. That was how things were then. So I wanted to find a way to heal that, so I wasn't passing on that pattern. So that was a reason. I realised that I was the common denominator in the abusive relationships I was creating, so I needed to take responsibility for that.
Remove the victim.
Which is hard. A lot of people can't do that either.
Well, no, because we don't have the tools, and that's why you guys are so amazing doing this, because you're letting people know the tools. One of them is breath work.
Yeah.
So I was asking for answers, basically. I was putting out a prayer. How am I going to resolve these issues? How do I heal the eczema? I knew that there would be a way to heal the eczema, because when I had my son, my second child, Fabian, I got mastitis, and the doctor said that means your breasts just go solid and you can't feed milk. It happens a lot to cows.
Right.
Farmers all know this.
Oh, yeah.
So my grandma was like, put cabbage leaves down your bra and all that. I went to the doctors and they said, you'll have to stop breastfeeding, go on steroids, on antibiotics. And I went, no way, that's not happening. 6 weeks in. I went to the health, I used to go to the doctors, get a diagnosis, go to the health food shop, and at the health food shop they said, take echinacea. Something as simple as we all use echinacea now as an immune booster.
Right.
At that time, I'd never heard of it. Took echinacea, 2 days, mastitis was gone.
No way.
Yeah. And I was at, and then I was at a festival and my milk started to dry up and I went to a herbalist. She gave me milk thistle and something else. My milk was back. So I knew that natural stuff could heal.
Yeah.
But I didn't have an answer, so I went on a journey.
Because we've had this as well, right? So we go into a health professional, which first and foremost we always recommend everybody seeks health, but the thing is, we're being told one thing, and we know health professionals have an agenda as well to just say, take this antibiotic, they push certain things down. But the thing is now, you've looked outside the box for something else, and straight away it's worked. Right? That sort of now conflicts.
That sowed a seed of, I know that there are natural remedies that can heal anything.
And that also comes back to the Rothschilds when they spent over a 30-year period. They got rid of all holistical medication and treatments and took over the universities. And I don't know if you've been aware, because in the last 2 days, the FDA in America are outlining, they're trying to make it a legislation, get my words there, all natural remedies, everything from dandelion leaves and all this lot, because then it'll make it easier for them to basically make it against the law for you to use these stuff. Now they know this, they know these natural remedies. So you've already got laws in place where they want people to stop growing their own foods. They don't want you to power your own motor vehicles with your own.
Didn't somebody get fined in Liverpool for burning wood on a fire?
I know. So they're taking away all people's rights and power. Now the thing is, so in the everyday world, if you like, people who are going out to work today, they go to the supermarket, get the shopping, blah blah blah. They won't think that what we're talking about is that. Because it won't be affecting their life. But further down the road, they will wonder, when did my rights get took away? When did this happen? And it's like the 20-minute cities and everything else.
And sneak it in, don't they?
It's already snuck in, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
And we talk about, well, because nobody really talks about these days grandmother's recipes and the old.
Oh, I do.
Well, I know, and it's important.
It is important.
It's so important.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
My granddad was in the army and he used comfrey all the time. So not only for gardening, for soaking, for putting on, but they used it when they didn't have anything else in the army. They were using comfrey for wounds. So it's not that long ago that we had all that knowledge and
we need to bring all this wisdom and knowledge back, because it's like, I mean, to be fair, like for someone like myself, I've never smoked cannabis and I've never used CBD oil and everything else. But I have seen the results of people who it's made massive, And then we also learn things like, we cut down trees, but yet we could use hemp for everything. And it grows within 6 months. Yeah,
you can make
within 3 months, like 12 foot.
So again,
it's stronger than silk, stronger than silk.
Exactly. So now you have to ask is the powers that be. They know this. Why? Are they for? And do you know what I mean? And then they're chopping down the rainforest,
because they can't make profit out of it. So, and it's the same with drugs and pharmaceuticals, and that's why they wanted me on steroids. Then they've got a patient for life, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. So basically,
that's not happening.
So you found yourself going down more of a herbal remedy path.
Well, a holistic. I was searching for something, and at the same time, because the divorce and losing my daughter was so painful, I was then going out and partying, taking ecstasy, which actually woke me up to my connection with source energy again, because I started to breathe and pray that I'd be okay. And actually in that process, I started to realise the power of synchronicity, and I started to really use my breath.
You were opening up there.
So I was opening up then. All these things sort of happened simultaneously. And also, I remember being in chill out rooms at clubs going, how can we feel high like this forever? This is not sustainable. Because you have loads of friends on the party scene and they'd be like, oh, I'll phone you. And then they never do. So it'd be like, well, how can we feel high and amazing like this forever? So that was part of my prayer with all these things. I was then using a bookshop on Oldham Street in Manchester. Some people might remember that old bookshop. Can't remember the name of it.
Street.
Yeah, great little second-hand bookshop. And I'd been getting books from there for a while. And I clearly remember having another David Icke book in my hand and a book called Rebirthing in the New Age by Leonard Orr, written in the 70s, and going, okay, enough of David Icke for now. Let's read this. I couldn't put it down. I was really like, this is the answer to everything. So that was Leonard Orr. And this happened before the internet. So this was all before the internet. And I was like, how am I going to find a rebirther in Manchester? How am I going to find somebody who can help me stop shouting at my kids, empower me and clear all of that trauma from the past, so I stop manifesting abusive relationships, so I can heal this itching that was literally, I'd wake up in the night scratching myself raw and have to then use some steroids to calm it down. It was horrendous. So I knew that there must be an answer. This book I just knew it was the answer. And what was even more amazing than that was one of the girls who used to go out with partying all the time, and I couldn't put this book down, got to her place, everyone was around having a cup of tea, chatting about where we're going out partying this weekend, and she literally turned round to me with the back of an envelope and she went, oh, there's the name of that rebirth you wanted. I didn't even tell him. I hadn't even told him.
It's divine, isn't
like, whoosh, where did that come from? That was I was like, holy shit, this
manifestation on it.
Yeah, exactly. Gave me the name of this Christine McCallum, who was amazing. I did my first 10 sessions with her in Withington in Manchester. Sadly, she died a few years ago. But she was the first person who ever held me in unconditional love. And that shifted everything. So that's what it was, being held in a place where you're completely loved and accepted, no matter what. I'd be like, oh, I've fucked up again. I've done a load of acid. And she's like, it's all right. I used to be a speed addict. Don't worry about it, love. Just, So I was, rather than being judged, and I was totally loved and accepted and held in those breath sessions, which helped me to integrate the past and move forwards. And as soon as Christina Artemis turned up saying, I'm running a breathwork training, I'm like, I'm on it. I'm on it.
That's it. But there must have been something in you as well at that time where you recognised that you wanted to change and make that and do that work.
Ready.
You were,
and I was putting it out as a prayer.
Yeah.
I was putting it out saying, how do I do this? What are the answers to all of these things that weren't flowing in my life?
But that's a lovely way of thinking, because a lot of people, they'll be shouting at the kids doing the schoolroom, going to a lot of people don't actually have that thought of like, I need to look at my own life here. I need to look at myself. Like the inner work, if you like. A lot of people always think it's external problems, external issues.
Everyone always looks at rather than themselves.
Yes.
Most people.
So, like, even when you've been going through your trauma and then the eczema and all this, the fact that you was even thinking, look, I need to do something about that, I think that's fantastic.
I think the seed was sown when I actually was brought up C of E Christian,
right?
And all my family went to church, and their thing was all about they wanted to be better people.
Yeah,
and I was in the Girl Guides. I was on the national committee for the Girl Guides. I was like really in that doing good, wanting to be a better person. So I think that seed was always there from my family, from my background, and also. I also went to a Catholic school, so I was always intrigued about the philosophy and why do some people believe that when they take communion it turns to the real body and blood of Christ, like Catholics do, and Christians just believe it. So I was already intrigued with philosophy, or like why do people have these different beliefs? So that curious.
It's great.
But that is great because that's what opens up everything.
So I
Most
think
people don't care enough. Really, to be fair.
So can we just a little talk about? Let's go back because I do love a good story about drugs. So let's go back to the psychedelic scenes and just share a few stories with that, because obviously during the period of psychedelics, and also as well, it's important because at the moment DMT, which is more controlled, is coming through a lot. Like people are sort of
breathwork activates DMT.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit about like what happened when you were doing your psychedelic stuff? And, is there any good stories you want to share with us?
First time to feel a projectile vomiting.
Did you?
Like, and my mate went, whoa, like that. And then I was like, back at my friend's house. In fact, the first night I did ecstasy, I was with a boy who was my first boyfriend when I was 10. We were at Sunday school together. So that was really fun. And so I was all over the place. Well, I'm never taking drugs again if this is what it does. And then they put me in his bed and looked after me. They were great because, on that scene, everybody looks after one another so much. And then I came round a bit and I went, that was amazing. When can we do that?
So you enjoyed it. So when you did the psychedelics, was there any spiritual experiences?
Absolutely.
Did any entities come and say hello and give you some guidance?
For the very first time, I'd always been a disco diva, and which is funny with you making that video this morning.
Well, everything happens, Sherry.
Wait, guys, till you see this. So I'd always been like a disco diva and first on the dance floor, and always been that, but there were a lot of punks like looking at me like, who the fuck and pulling me down. So I was always a bit scared of my own power, my sexuality, because of the church, all of that. So the first time I went out and I was really going for it and partying, and people were like, you're cool, like telepathically, go on, have it. It was like I was given permission for the first time to express who I really was, which was a dancer and a creative and expressing. And that was so freeing, just that first time. But then
you feel alive then, don't you?
Like really alive, invincible, and I could do anything. And so it was really empowering. And then as I continued to go out and party and meet different people, just sitting down, having conversations with people about what's really going on in the world. Like you're having conversations here in clubs, you'd be having those conversations, which I hadn't had before. But at the same time, in my trance-like state and getting downloads, information, understanding of how the world, the corruption, how the world was, seeing it differently. So having the chats with people and then breathing in that beautiful energy from source, switch me, and it also switched me back onto that connection with God that I'd lost because I threw the baby out with the bathwater from my Christian family, because you've got to rebel, haven't you, against your family, the belief systems.
We all love a rebellion.
And because I went to Egypt when I was 18 and saw, oh my God, they've been lying to me. This ancient civilization 5,000 years ago with all these beautiful temples, and we were taught that the Christians, like, educated
it's all a lie,
it's all a lie. And I was like, that's what really woke me up.
Do you think the psychedelics and the DMT open up the pineal gland?
Yeah, absolutely. It opens us up so that we can see the world in a different way. But breathwork does the same, meditation does the same. So it's like, that's my journey. That taking ecstasy then opened me up and started me praying again and started that connection because of Leah Betts. You know that whole Leah Betts thing? Who had died.
Why does that name ring a bell, Leah Betts?
Because they made a big thing about it. They made a big thing about it in the media. That
was it the first time she ever took a drug and something like that and she died? The name rings a bell, I remember that.
So ecstasy, that?
Yeah. So they made a really big thing. But that started me praying, and I remember closing my eyes going into the toilet in Shelley's in Stoke, and closing my eyes and like visualising a flower and then visualize and going, oh my God, my thought creates stuff.
Wow.
So whatever I think I can create in my mind, and then transferring that to whatever I think I can create in the world. So that's what ecstasy taught me. I was like, whoa, we are powerful.
Do you know what's amazing there, Julie? Right, so we started off the conversation, we're talking about how they purposely do all the trauma, right, and try and stop you basically waking up from day one, right? Then you know, because you've been asking these questions and through the psychedelics and everything else, basically the powers that be, they are doing everything they can to stop you all your life waking up.
Yeah.
Right, and there is an agenda to stop you waking up, because as soon, and this is why we do rise up and take your power back, because when people wake up and realise their true power,
100%.
right, now you look what we talked about, they're trying to take away all the homeopathic medications so you don't wake up. They're putting the fluoride in your water and everything else so you don't wake up. They're taking away your B vitamins and everything else so you don't wake up. The people who are waking up are saying, you can create your own life. You can have anything you frigging want, you idiots.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And then the people who were waking up under LSD or drugs, straight away it's easy to label them as crazy. Oh, they only did this because they took drugs. That's not the real world.
Of course.
And it's the powers that be. It's anything to stop you.
Anything and everything. It's a game.
Yeah.
It is a massive game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our job is to unleash that puzzle, figure it out.
But the thing is, and when we have guests like Julie and other fantastic people we've had on, we keep putting these little pieces in the jigsaw. And then what's going to happen is the listeners, somebody will be like, oh, it's all making sense.
We've been lied to.
It's all making sense. I need to watch Wizard of Oz again. It's unbelievable.
And Alice in Wonderland.
And Alice in Wonderland, I believe.
And Labyrinth.
Yeah, and they do tell us all in the films, don't they?
You know what, me and the missus, we've gone in this little point where we're starting watching B-movie horrors for a laugh again, like proper old 80s B-movies. And the other day we watched one, I think it was called From Beyond, and it was a guy, a scientist who'd created this frequency machine, and it had what they called, the sound, what they call when you hit them, the tuning fork, the big tuning forks, and when it was called a resonator, and when it did a certain frequency, it opened your pineal glands, and then all these beings started appearing. It was like, whoa! And it was a H.P. Lovecraft story.
Wow, there's a lot of old movies like that where the truth is coming through.
The truth, bro. Can I just ask, because we made a note here, we live the way that we breathe.
Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate a little bit for that for me?
So basically, like I was saying, if you catch your hand, you hold your breath. So life's full of little traumas. We've talked about being in the womb, being birth, and then you get to school and there's more trauma and you're told off, and you hold your breath. You hold your breath because you don't want to feel life's pain. Yeah. So when your breath is restricted, then you've restricted your life, because our breath is the way that we receive. When our breath's open, we receive love, we receive energy. Most of our energy that we use in our bodies, we need glucose, but we need the breath to be like a full breath gives us more energy. That's science, basic science. We need glucose and we need the respiratory system to give us energy.
Is there any... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but when our breath's stuck and restricted, our life's restricted, because we're breathing in energy. We're breathing in our life force energy. And when our breath's restricted and stuck, we're restricting all of that. So we're putting a lock on the pain, so it stops us feeling the pain from the past. If we're not breathing in our bellies, we don't have to re-experience or re-feel the trauma from the past. So it stops that. We go into our head, we go into our mind, our breath's restricted. But also we're stopping how much joy, how much love, how much energy we can receive, because we've restricted the breathing. So the way that we're breathing is the way that we're living our life. So my party trick is I can lie anybody down, look at your breathing pattern and tell you what the main blocks are by the way that we breathe. So you can see where the breath's flowing, where it isn't flowing, where it's blocked, and then we can unlock that and get the breath flowing.
So it's possible
again.
to give a type of diagnosis, like an MOT, from
it's
someone's...
a breathing analysis.
And is there any correlation or connection between the breath and things like the chakras or the energy centres?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah,
so do they cause...
So I work not only with the flow of the breath, but going into the body and finding where the blocks are. We've got lots of blocks around here because this is where we hold on to anger. We've got a lot of blocks around expression.
Right.
So I encourage a lot of expression in the sessions. Yeah, we want to drop into the pain so that people can really feel the pain and integrate it. But also we need to learn to express too, because we've been shut down. We've been made to be quiet, you know, all of us for various reasons in our life. And so we do a lot of making sound and expressing and clearing the throat, as well as clearing all the blocks that are in the physical body. You can actually go in the body and find out find the blocks and get a client to continue to breathe by pressing on the points, and it releases the trauma from the muscles in the body. So it clears right to the root of our whatever trauma.
Can it be a very emotional?
Yeah.
Can it?
Yeah. I can imagine.
People come out of sessions crying and going, oh, thank you.
Because a lot of holistical therapies and everything, they do always start to, like they say, the base, the root chakra. And would that be the same with the breath?
So that's when we're starting the breath down here. We're breathing into the root, which is safety. And a lot of us have never felt safe in our lives. That's why we breathe up here and we go into the mind and we go into the intellect and we overthink everything. And that's avoiding the body, avoiding the feelings. It's somatic work really that we're doing with the breath, so that we're allowing ourselves to feel everything, so it can be loved.
Is it important before you work on the root and bring the breath through? Is it important to like ground ourselves?
Well, we're grounding ourselves by doing
the breath,
by breathing into the belly. We're grounding ourselves in our root, and a lot of people find it really hard to even, when I've done that little demonstration, some people will find it hard to actually breathe in the belly. The diaphragm's the main breathing muscle, and we should be breathing here. But because we're all so traumatized, we've all got so much pain, a lot of us go into breathing up here.
Well, I noticed when we were doing that exercise that all mine was here.
So during your classes, what you teach and your courses, would a class involve, so do you play like certain meditation music, or is it your voice that talks?
What we do before we actually lie down and breathe is we dance. We do a kundalini, so we're moving our energy again.
I just asked about that before.
Really going.
Have you done the kundalini thing? Someone else. Have you raised your kundalini? Someone else told me about it.
We're doing it all the time by using.
I don't know much about it. Really.
By dancing, it's just a word for that energy that we're awakening. That's inside. It's a snake that's coiled and asleep, and we're awake. I suppose by doing that dancing and all that partying, I was awakening that energy within me. That's what I was feeling the first.
Do you know, like when you're in, we have these moments like in life where we're in like ecstasy, like we've all done it, where we just feel so joyous and happy and so free. Is that sort of almost like raising your kundalini, like where you just feel like you've not got a care in the world, you're just so happy?
It'd be nice to live like that all the time.
I got to just moving off subject here. If you would have had the camera in here the other day, this is honestly. I was flicking through TikToks, right, and this young man come on, and I'd say he was about 22, 23, right, and he had a GoPro on his head, and basically he was a train spotter. Right. And he was so excited because these two certain trains were both going to be in the platform at the same time.
Yeah.
And when the trains come in, he was running because he had to get to the other side. Do you know what? I was crying my eyes up. He was so fucking happy.
Yeah.
I could feel his happiness. Right. Do you know what? My son Owen, he went, "Are you crying over that train, Bella?" And I said, because I was just so happy for him.
Yeah.
I was just, he was in that moment of ecstasy. He was like, this was all his dreams come true, and I was just so happy for him.
Yeah.
And I had these tears rolling down, and I just thought, imagine if we could all live in this.
Yeah. Well, that's what is so beautiful about running workshops and trainings, when people connect with that energy that's there all the time. It's just we're not given the tools to connect with that innate joy that is our birthright. Everybody should actually be, because loving life and enjoying what they're doing and passionate.
How many people actually ever live or get to be in that state ever? Because they're doing the work and the stresses of life. And this is why the workshops are so important,
Definitely.
And I can imagine it being so empowering. And then also to see people at the other end of it.
Exactly. To shift and move through and let go and realise. And also we work with mindset and coaching, so they realise that they've been
And I know as well, being at Carry On Camping, people have come past me when I was doing Reiki and said, we've just had that morning workshop with Julie Ann. Wow, it's like people crying and stuff walking out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is.
How much do you believe the power of raising your breath and the energy coming through you and the connection with source or God or whatever?
Okay, so what we're actually doing is entraining the breath. So the breathing that I teach, it's a very high vibrational energy force. Yeah. And anything of a high vibration brings anything of a lower vibration to the surface. I notice you've got a metronome thing over there.
Oh yes, yeah.
So if you put metronomes in a room, they all start moving at the same time. If you get a load of women who are working together, they entrain one. They all have the periods at the same time.
Like viruses, Well, not viruses, but like a cold. If someone has a cold, the system of that person will be going. The system inside will be going, oh, that person's ill. I'm going to have to now come out with the cold.
Really?
Detox. So your body, everyone starts detoxing, and that's why everyone gets colds. It's not passing a germ on or anything. No. It's that your body's a going,
detox.
I need to detox because that person's not well. Yeah. And that's your body reacting. Yeah. That's what I was like.
We're so connected in ways that we don't know.
It's amazing. Yeah, so it's a process of entrainment. We're using this high vibrational energy force, and what it does, it digs and it brings anything else to the surface that's of a lower vibration. It connects with our electromagnetic field and it brings anything lower vibration to the surface. That's why people cry and release and have memories, and then you continue to breathe, and it digs into the subconscious.
I want to do your workshop.
Is it what's odd? I know this might sound crazy, but I've had a thought pop into my head, so I'm going to ask you: is there like a sexual side to it?
I'm leaving now.
I tell you for why. Because I had this thing of when people they don't have to touch each other. I forgot the practice.
Tantra.
Is it tantra? And they sort of breathe together, don't they? Yeah. And they raise this amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Is that the same?
Exactly.
Is that the same with the breath?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. So have you never done that with your partner where you're breathing?
I struggle to breathe in life. Have you never heard me on these podcasts? I sound like a walrus.
Well, actually, what we're doing is when we're breathing, we're getting turned on by life. Like that guy was turned on by trains. He was excited about life. So the more life that we're breathing, the more turned on by life we are. Yeah, exactly.
I can imagine a workshop being very empowering and two people and we're both however many people, but you're all there for the same thing and you're just letting go, you're letting yourself go, and you're just in that moment of joyous and forget the rest of the world.
It's going to be moving because you're dropping into painful memories, or like you were saying, you were crying so much with joy.
I love seeing other people happy.
Well.
I love it.
Sometimes people just drop in and they're crying with joy because they've reconnected with source energy, because that's all the breath's doing. All I'm doing is guiding people to connect with source energy, with their own power, with their own and there's an infinite supply of love through the breath. That's why I call myself loving the breath.
Well, I'd like to think, with all the restrictions that the government's bringing in, one thing the core take away from us surely is our breath. No. But I will say this:
spraying shit all the time.
They're trying to by making us all this.
And also,
as well,
I can't believe
they tell us everything in films, and in the Schwarzenegger film where they go to Mars, they actually do turn off the air, don't they?
That's right.
I don't know if you've seen it. In Total Recall, they make them pay for air.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So eventually they'll take everything off you, won't they? So because I've seen videos like where you might see these people out in the cold water or the ice or whatever, and they'll sit there cross-legged and they'll be like, and like, so what's that?
So that's a different breathing.
Is that something different?
That's a more masculine. So that's Wim Hof. It's more masculine. I think it gets you to the same place. Yeah. But not lots of people don't want to go in cold water. They don't want to. They don't want to do it like that. So basically, what I do, it's more feminine. It's more loving.
I prefer your way. I've got to be honest.
Everything shrivels up.
I'm not going in no cold water.
It's like instant shock.
Shit.
My breath's going.
I can't breathe. Your way seems a lot more.
You can get the same result. By doing what we call dry breath work or dry breathing. And also you can breathe in warm water. So on my trainings, what I do is some warm water breathing, where you're actually breathing underwater with a snorkel, and that then you face a lot of the fear around your own birth from that.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you do that as well. Not just cold, but the cold, it's great actually that the Wim Hof thing has been on telly and got it out there. So now more people, when I talk about breath work, are aware of it because of Wim Hof.
I didn't realise he was even a big name, because I've come across him.
I didn't know. At the breathwork conference in Tenerife, and he got us all going we got a jacuzzi, filled it with ice, and we all went in.
No way.
It's going, it's not cold, it's not cold. I did it. Fantastic. And I've done, cold water breath work as well. But there are lots of different ways to do it. Breath work is like a Swiss Army penknife. There are loads of different breaths for different,
We watched good as well. Just last, I think we didn't get a chance to show it last week, but Linda was on. She had it was like a tambourine, wasn't it? But when it had like little steel ball bearings inside, and as she went around, apparently that's the sound when you're in the womb.
So it's creating.
But I've got to be honest, as I was sat here, you're right, it's powerful. And when you just talked about that water thing, we'll see if I can get you the clip.
And you move the drum.
Oh my God,
and the balls move, but you get that swoosh.
And I just thought, could you imagine if you were doing that with the water and the snorkel, but listening to that?
There's different ways to do all sorts of different ways to do warm water breathing. You can put yourself in there so you're really facing your fear, or you can just be held really beautifully so you re-experience. It's like the birth you've always wanted. So there are lots of ways to work with breath and water, not just the Wim Hof way.
Can I just ask good as well? So I know as well. So like a lot of people will ask me, and I'm definitely the wrong person to ask, by the way. But a lot of people say to me, Kev, how do you meditate? Or I'm meditating wrong. But a lot of the first things people will talk about meditation is concentrate on the breath. So is there anything you could sort of share with us where when you're relaxing and you're concentrating on the breath, and the thoughts to clear people's minds and that kind of thing?
So a lot of people find meditation difficult, and that's why they prefer breath work, because with breath work you're focusing on the breath. So you've got something to focus on. I would say that's a really good way to start meditation. Use a candle, so you've got something to focus on. A fire, we all like sitting around fires, don't we, meditating on the fire. Or use a mantra, so you're repeating something in your head. So there's lots of different ways, but I would say like focusing on the body, because what we're doing, we're bringing ourselves out of the head into the body. It's embodying somatic work that does the work, that clears and heals. So I would say just be aware of the breath. Just by being aware of, that's what I was doing in that little demo, being aware of where your breath is, where it's moving, being aware of the body, and focusing on where your body's sitting on the chair. So you're just really bringing awareness into the physical body and the breath. And that's what we're doing the whole of the session, because your mind will try and distract you with, oh, you don't want to do that.
Anything.
About the frying pan into the fire. And so when we're breathing, we're also letting the thoughts pass by, just letting the thoughts pass by. And that's a practice. It takes time to be able to. We can't clear our thoughts because we need to remember.
Even sometimes when you try to concentrate on your breath, your thoughts overtake it, don't they? They try and constantly try and stop you.
That's why we need to.
Yeah.
We need to.
And people often say as well, I'm busy, because people are very busy. I mean, life is, again, it's down to, I believe, conditioning. Obviously, they don't want us to find our true power. So you do your 9 to 5, you got your family, you never stop, and finding time to meditate is like very difficult. With the breath work, in a way, you could find.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's so powerful. You only need to do like 5 or 10 minutes of that breath in between when you're coming and doing sessions or groups to really raise your vibration. You don't need to. You only need to breathe for like 5 minutes every day to realign yourself.
I can imagine a very large percentage of the population is like, people don't ever spend them 5 minutes quietening the mind, because that's where all the answers are. But then that comes back to the control. As long as your head is busy, whether it's the football, whether it's the missus, or whether it's anything, the shopping or the kids, people don't, and the answers are only in when you quiet the mind.
The intellect, the intellect is seen as the like highest thing in society, isn't it? That if we're the cleverest and we've got the most degrees, actually that's the height of where we can reach in society. But it's also the heart is really powerful, and the gut, which is where we receive our answers, our understanding and our intuition. And when we're in the mind and the intellect, we can't tune into the body, we can't tune into what it is we really need to take care of ourselves, like what herbs, like intuitively. The more we breathe and the more we connect with our higher self, the more we're aligned with synchronicity, and the more that answers will just fall into place rather than trying to work it out. And it's unbelievable, because society brings you up thinking, if you work hard and you get this job and this much money, and then you're seen as a success in society, you could be. But that's total false. It's crap. I don't care about any of that. No, it's simple. Simple.
And the thing is, though, the people who manifest the best lives are the ones who are doing it completely opposite to what the system tells you to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And, like literally, because I've done it myself, and we asked Linda last week, we said, how have you managed to go on these fantastic holidays or meet these amazing people? And she said, I just manifest it. And I literally, everything's through a gut and a heart and just knowing. And she said, and then something will happen. And then someone will say, oh, I bought you 2 tickets for this. And you're like, what? Now, if you said that to someone, you'd say that.
That's how my first breathwork training, I think it was like 4,500 or something, because I trained in rebirthing and dance, drama and voice therapy together with Christina Artemis, which was amazing. But I didn't have the money for it, and my first breath teacher said, she did it, which I do with clients now, it's called the flower process, and you stand and you go, what does it feel like if you've got that? What does it feel like if you haven't? It's like, do you really want it? Well, then just say yes to the universe. And I went, yes, I'm doing it. Yes. That's all you have to say, yes. And then the universe will answer. And if it's meant to be, and I met the father of my second child, then got pregnant. I was like, I can't do it. She said, yes, you can, bring the baby with you. And his parents paid for most of the training, and I'd never even met him when I said yes. So it was like the money it just manifested. And then there was a breathwork conference in Ecuador, and I was like, no way can I afford that. And then I had a shop, and then I got like divine intuition, right, I need to close my shop now, I need to do breath work full time. And of course I closed my shop and I had the money there, so it's like every time that's happened, and even the opening of the shop was another alignment. So I was like, what do you want me to do now? Okay, I'll do it, but and everything.
And people struggle so much with letting go and trusting that feeling and that intuition.
Well, I've had to let go so many times. I let go of everything. When I left Macclesfield, my house, my business, my kids, everything went, and then went on a new journey. And the same happened like a year ago. My yurt burnt down. I had to let go of everything.
It's a trusting your journey, isn't it?
And just trusting that, okay, that was like all my beautiful thing, but I had to just let it go because it's stuff. It's just stuff.
And that's hard because
it's not really important. Like,
I know, but when you're going through it, like people are thinking, I've lost my house, my possessions, and they think,
that's happened to me twice now in this life. I've lost everything.
But if you could look at it from a higher perspective and say, universe is telling you something to you. You know what I mean?
Well,
time to move on. it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just material and it's just matter. That's all it is.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. And I came back up north, reconnected with people, met my partner, who's the love of my life, and now that's like what's more important than having beautiful, loving relationships and simplicity. Just simplicity. We don't need as much as we think.
We do complicate.
We do.
Everything gets
Is there a big connection between anxiety and depression and people struggling? Do you have people who come to your workshops and people you help who are basically really suffering, and then the breathing work can help them?
Yes. So it's brilliant at anxiety, depression. One of my colleagues worked with Fern Cotton, who people will know really well. You can go watch her podcast, and it was the breath work, working with Rebecca Dennis, who's a colleague of mine, that got her over depression. So that's a really good story for people to go and listen to. Because the anxiety is like that energy, isn't it? It's like wanting a voice, it's wanting to be heard, and that's the trauma from the past that's wanting to come to the surface. So when we breathe, what we're doing actually, we're learning to physically open up our breath, and when we open up the breathing pattern, it drops us into the subconscious, and in the subconscious is where all of the programming, the negative programming, suppressions, repressions are held. So the breath digs and it drops you into that, and so then when you feel the pain from the past, you feel it,
you can release
you love it, but you're not pushing it away, you're not making it wrong. What you're doing, you're loving it and accepting it. You love and accept it, and that's the alchemy. That's the love is the alchemy that integrates it, and you feel the energy just moving through your body. You feel it leaving, and then that's it. It's permanent. You've cleared that piece. You've cleared that piece of trauma, that piece of anxiety. So that is I really specialise in anxiety and depression.
That's really good, because that'll be a big thing for a lot of people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, massive.
I mean, it's like that. If you went on a course and said, "Look, if I can come out to this and I don't no longer suffer with anger," that'd be massive just for that.
And also, absolutely, it's life changing because I remember at a time when I was so in my head and so like, what am I going to wear? What will people think? Now I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. Because
that's freedom.
Exactly. That is, and that's what I call my introductory workshops, breathing freedom.
Perfect.
Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah. It's just one piece. People want peace in the life.
Ease and.
Have you found? Because obviously there's so many different holistical treatments out there, if you like. I don't even feel like breathing would. I suppose it would come under holistical, but the thing is, because it's so natural, it seems a bit more. I don't want to say more important, but it's more
fundamental. It's a fundamental.
But have you had any, when you've been doing it over the years, has there been any sort of pushbacks or any risk, like people who say, "Oh, I don't believe that," or "I don't," or is it? Has there been any negativity around it?
I set an intention that I only want to work with people who are really ready.
Right.
So I don't really attract people who. I only attract people who really want to do the work. And the only time you come across maybe when I had my shop, I'd get people coming in going, "Well, prove it to me, prove it that these I sell crystals and I make crystal jewellery, prove it to me that they work." And I'd just say, "Listen mate, if you want to fight, go down the pub, there's probably helping loads of people.
Do you know, I was only thinking
I don't
because
really get that.
Yeah.
No, but
I set that intention that I only want people who are really ready to do the work.
Yeah.
what I was thinking as well, because it's like let's say you went to a doctor and someone said, "Oh, I'm going to try Reiki," right? And then you might get certain doctors who just they might fight a bit of restriction against that. They might want the conventional method, but I can't imagine even any doctor being against breathing properly.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Because surely they would say, well, yeah, because even a doctor will say, listen, put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath if you're feeling anxiety.
Yeah.
So that is...
Yeah, because also if you go for CBT, they will give you like a meditation tape just to get more into your body and feel more.
Yeah.
You know, that's another simple breath thing that you can do, you know, when you go through the whole of your body and try to visualize the energy in your body, you know, just bringing your whole conscious awareness to your body rather than being out in that mind that's going 24/7, that monkey mind. So when you speak to people logically like that, but I do remember going to the doctors when I'd had homeopathy, and it cleared up a load of eczema that I had because I've done homeopathy and Chinese. I tried everything to try to get to, but it was the breath that really got to the root of it. But on that journey, and I remember going to my doctor and saying, look, Helen, my homeopath, is on your list. It's just cleared it up. And he just went, you know, he wouldn't even recommend it. So you've got old school doctors who are so stuck in the ways, but there's a lot now.
It's coming out,
newer doctors coming. I remember being at Glastonbury Festival and a doctor came on the workshop and was loving it. And so, you know, as time goes on, people are getting more open to it. And as they've had friends and relatives and people who've but
success
also
stories,
you hear it on the radio all the time. People are going, antidepressants don't work, and see, all we've got is antidepressants and CBT, and I'm shouting at the radio, but what about breathwork and what about? And that's why people are seeking out other answers, because they're not getting what they need through, you know, through
the conventional whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
So can we just so someone's listening now and they're like, whoa, this is ace. I want to learn this, blah, blah, blah. Now you offer, is it a 2-year course?
I'm starting this month the breathwork training program, and that is like, you do most of the training modules in a year, but then you also need to do clients, read books. So but that's a big thing. That is really if people want to train to be professional.
So if somebody wanted to actually do this as a living?
Yes. So that's a breathwork training program, which is a sovereignty breathwork. But I do all sorts of little things. So the first thing that I do every Monday morning, I've done that before I come here, is wake up and breathe. So I do that online. That's free breathwork. Anyone can hop on that. Fantastic. That's a setting your intentions for the week. That I do that every Monday morning for free.
What's your website there then?
It's loveinthebreath.com.
Yeah, cool. We'll have in the description.
So then I do introductory workshops. I haven't done any at all this month because I've been busy writing the breathwork training program, all the files and the modules and all of that. The next one that I'm doing is in Leek on the 20th, that's in Staffordshire, at a place called Dreamcatcher. That's on the 27th of April, an introductory workshop. And I'm also starting Breathing Circle, which is going to be a regular monthly thing in Manchester at the Resonance Centre, which is also an amazing place. So I've got lots of beginners and introductories every month online. I'm also doing a Breathing in Love Circle every month. So
people could watch you online and do it as well as in person.
Yeah, they can come and do it online. So the Breathing Circle is like an introductory hour, and I think that's only like £6, and then you can come and do an actual breath session after that, and I do that once a month. So you can start really small. I was going to ask, I do retreats.
Oh, go on. Carry on. Yeah.
So I think the retreat we've got in May in Wales is, I think that's full up now, but I'm offering a retreat on the beautiful land in May 12th to the 14th of May, I think that is, in Staffordshire on this beautiful piece of land. Fantastic. In a bell tent. So that will be a weekend of breathwork with 5 sessions, and that's called Love Yourself. Learning to love yourself and integrate the fear, integrate the past.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great.
Is there, just so people, what's good, so like, let's say someone's a complete newbie, if you're like a novice, would you not throw somebody who's got, is there like different levels where you join in the, like you...
Yeah. So Breathing Circle, online and in Manchester, you come and do the beginners class for an hour,
so
where I explain what it is, how it works, how we do it with a demonstration. So when you go into the breathing session, you're not just being thrown into a breathwork session without understanding how you do it, what goes on, because there's a specific way we breathe and certain things that we do, like lie really still, because that drops you in, not like lots of movement and drama. So all those classes have a little introductory, and then people who breathe with me regularly can just then come in to the actual breath session. And then if people want to do more, they can come and do a weekend. But that's also for beginners as well, because we start. So
you can work all the way through.
The introductory.
But I can imagine being around several like-minded people and going through. I mean, that's very empowering. And
I would imagine it would be amazing.
Yeah. And it is, when you're working in a group, it is, because you see what's going on with other people, they're sharing, everybody's stuff is relating to one another. So working with groups is very empowering as well. It's a different dynamic. But working one-on-one is where you get really deep. So whether that's in a small group and you're working one-on-one, but one-on-one sessions is where you really can go deep, because you're working with somebody for a whole 90 minutes, working with coaching and breath. And
from the business side of it, for people who do want to learn it and everything else, and I mean, how popular is it? How is there a lot of work there? Is there,
Well, really, you have to create your own niche in the market, and some people specialise. Some people specialise in like anxiety, depression. Some people end up specialising with children, or working in prisons, or working with higher end or retreat. You can choose where you want to. It depends what your passion is.
That's interesting, because what we do is, and we've said this to many clients, and like we try to, and one of the things we're building with Drake Michigan is to show people how we call it narrowing down the dot. Right, so basically getting the specific type of clients, because a lot of times people think they want to save the world, you know what I mean, and sometimes you know what, you can't make everyone in the world breathe. Just making one person breathe well is good enough, isn't it? So if we could narrow down the dot, but it's important, like, because you just said there, someone might really feel like, I want to help old people who are struggling, or I might want to help children.
A colleague of mine works with the army in PTSD. So the thing is, if you all sorts of different trauma. And if you set your business up like for that particular field, or you can get funding and work with women's refuges. There are so many different people that would benefit from breath work. So you can, you choose where you want to put
That's
yourself.
good, because then you're around people that you're drawn to, and some people are really drawn to. No, can I just ask as well, because I never asked before. So near the end of life, if you're dead, like before you're croaking, because a lot of people have this. They take one, and you know what I mean? And it's funny because, like sometimes you'll get a medium and they'll come on, they'll go, oh, they took one last breath before they died. And like, no shit, Sherlock. But anyway, but no, because they have this.
I remember being really inspired by a book way back before I got into the breath work, or around that time when I was waking up to stuff, and it was about a guy who'd been a hitman, right, and he'd killed people. That was his job, and he got hit with, I don't know, like 50,000 volts or something like that. You should have just been dead. And he went to the other side, met all the angels, right? And they went, no chance, mate, you're going back, you've got work to do.
No
way. They sent him back, and he opened end-of-life hospices to help people move through the transition of death, because he died. he knew what it was
understood
like.
it.
And I do remember that when my grandma was dying, that in the hospital they were going like this, because she was going, I've seen your auntie, and I was like, she's transitioning, she's seeing people on the other side.
Yeah.
So we don't
And a lot of people
understand
talk about that, don't they?
So yes, you can use breathwork to help people transition, and as well with birth, all of it. You could focus on sex, you could focus on birth.
I like that bit.
On death.
I might say to the missus tonight, listen, I've had this podcast woman on. She wants us to practice our breathing. Go get yourself a shower, love. It could be a long night. 10 seconds later. You know what? I'm out of breath. Quality. Just me to lower the tone.
Can I ask you, do you have a morning protocol for yourself? Like
I was going to ask this.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning and I breathe and focus on gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Gratitude.
Yeah. That's important, gratitude.
Do you have a certain way of breathing at that point when you're doing that?
Just doing that belly breathing, just waking up in the morning and breathing into my belly, being grateful for every day all the simple things.
That's it.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah.
Do you connect the breathing work with anything to do with like nutrition and food? Do you have any? What's your feelings on food, or do you just eat what you want? Or no, because some people, they go on vegan, don't they? They go on carnivore. Some people say you shouldn't have McDonald's every day. And some people,
we all know you should have McDonald's every day.
I wish I'd tell my daughter that.
Yeah, I focus on the breath work, but food and nutrition is super, super important. So I eat mostly veggie, mostly vegan, but I don't go, I'm not eating any meat because I found when I've travelled, listening to my voice going, I can't eat that and I can't eat that. I'm just like, eat the bloody organic chicken that's running around, because actually it's probably more healthy than all the crap Western food when you're stuck out in the middle of, I don't know, South America or when I go and visit my mum and she doesn't really understand how to cook. So I go, okay, some prawns and some fish.
But you can consciously, bless that food anyway, in the intention of thank you and the gratitude again, and that thank you for your journey, for giving me the
also
nutrients.
Feeding ourselves with really healthy, nutritious food is really important as well. Yeah, and and really loving and enjoy. I mean, that's part of the trainings I do. Amazing. I do always make sure we've got really beautiful food because we're nourishing ourselves and water. My fella's gone to Buxton today to get more water. We collect spring water and we both make amazing food together and for the trainings and things.
So what does the future hold for Julie Ann? What is it you sort of, I know you already do it and you've been doing it for a very long time, but obviously with these new courses that you're liking to introduce, is it something you want to build upon?
So what's new for me now is running my own training. So I've run rebirther trainings. In fact, in 2003 when I first qualified, my Christina was, I think, the second part of the training. She was ill in bed and I had to run the training. Right. So straight away she was saying, obviously you're meant to be doing this work, because I was thrown in at the deep end. Then I was working with my friend Natalia Brown, helping her run the trainings. Then I've been running transformational breath trainings, and now, so what's new for me is me running my own training program. So so
you're looking forward to that, big things.
I'm looking forward to that. Only starting small, and I've got an amazing assistant, this lovely lady called Pixie. We're going to be working together a lot more, and just looking forward to training up more people so they can take the word out there.
Because again, you just it's like that dandelion seed again, isn't it? You just it's raising consciousness all over the place.
It's just amazing. It's amazing how different guests are bringing their own awakening and information to the table.
And you know what it is as well, though? It's all about love again. It's just love.
Everything. There's no one who we've been on where you would I don't want to say they've not got a bad bone in the body, but basically they're all coming from the right reasons. Yeah. They're all just wanting, okay, we all understand.
The best for humanity.
Exactly.
For people to be empowered and realise they've got a choice. Yeah. They've got a choice. And when they use the breath, they can focus, whatever the dreams are, help people to really create the life that they want. Not to be not to be working for corporates if they don't want to, and to be creating their own dreams and their own life. So that's.
Can I go back to this DMT thing? So I presume there's a certain way it has to be a specific way of doing the breath work to release DMT, because you can't just surely just breathe into your. Well, can you? I don't know. What?
I need to do some research on this, because I don't actually know or understand the science behind it, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing for the training, is pulling a lot of the science, which wasn't in any of my other trainings, putting a lot more of that into the training program. So I'm going to have to go and research actually what is going on there. Well, I know that it. I'm not a scientist, but I'm loving really learning about all the science behind breath. Because when I started doing breath work, we were told to say, we don't understand how it works, we just know it works. But now we understand the neurology and everything behind it, because basically what's happening I can tell you this bit, in the centre of our brains is the amygdala, and they release cortisol, which is connected to the vagus nerve. Right. So when we're breathing up here, we're activating that stress hormone, which causes the stress and anxiety. Right. By breathing in our bellies, we're bringing in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest mode, which helps us to integrate and heal. I know that also doing this sort of breath work using our diaphragm activates DMT. Wow. I don't know how it works, so I might have to go and do some studying of that.
I'm interested in that, because I've watched a few videos where you can raise your own DMT and you.
I think there's a guy, I don't know if you know him. He's got a channel on YouTube called Certified Health Nut, I think he is, and he does. And I think he shows a way of doing it. I've never tried it. I think he does this breath work, and it's like really intense, masculine kind of breath work. And he passes out sometimes. It's like literally just takes him through the barrier.
The thing is, what happens when you have a breath session, you drop into the body where all the answers are. So the breath knows, and the body knows. Like you said, the body has the answers. So in a way, that is like that. Activating, what is it that happened? I haven't done DMT, although my son's kept trying to get me to do it. He's like,
we're going to do a show.
Be really clear, you'll get really clear. I'm like, but I feel clear. I feel really clear with the breath work. So I think it helps you to get clarity and focus, and the breath work does that. So I'm sure the breath work does activate DMT, because you get realizations. You get sudden aha moments where you're like, that's
clarity.
Clarity.
My understanding with the DMT is, though, you do actually start seeing other dimensions and the toad and all these other figures. But
the thing is that actually useful? Does that actually help?
Well, that's another interesting. No, I know that is interesting.
So if it actually helps you to see, because there's lots of sort of psychedelic experiences that take you somewhere and you get all these visuals, but is that
in your everyday life?
That actually helping you?
The only thing you would
deal better with the here and now and have better relationships.
No, I agree with that.
I think that's what it's all about,
isn't it?
For me, I think the only reason, like what people from DMT is, like if you've got a curiosity of other realms and other worlds and other dimensions, I can understand why people are doing this. Way, to be honest, I enjoy listening to it, but I have I'm not interested in doing it. But if I could do it naturally, raised to that state, I think I would do that. I don't like this, because for me, again, we come into this world as natural, if you like. I always have this thing of, well, why do I need to take something to take me to another state? If God wanted us to be there, to be in this state, or understand that He'll take us there anyway. And I think, because in deep meditation and breathing, you can reach these places
you
of...
can reach the same state.
Yeah.
I think it was just that whole ecstasy thing had to happen to open the heart of humanity
it does,
and to shift. And the same with the LSD. I think that had to happen to awaken humanity. It was needed to give humanity a big shift.
LSD.
And it's taken us to the next level where people are now doing it naturally. So I think there's nothing wrong with any of it. But yes, I'm going to do some more research about DMT.
Julie, I know when we've been talking, you've talked about that there's 3 different levels of the breath work. Is it the just explain that to me?
In a session we go through, because healing's happening on 3 levels. It's happening physically, it's happening mentally and emotionally, and it's happening spiritually. Right. So it's like happening on all those 3 levels simultaneously. So we go through all those levels in every breath session that we have. So physically, what we're doing, literally physically, is learning to use the diaphragm and opening up the breath in the belly. We've talked about that. So, and what that does, that then drops you into the subconscious, where all of your programming is held. And then as you're continuing to breathe and dig with the breath, it clears the space.
Okay.
And in that space, that's where we set intentions. We always set our highest intention for a breath session. So that's a really important part, that we're saying, what is it I'd like to feel more of? More joy, more energy. For some people, they might have loads of energy. They might want to have more peace and centeredness or focus or clarity. So we set our intentions always in a session, and then we go through those 3 levels physically. So on the physical level, when we're using our diaphragm, there's loads of benefits before you go into the mental and emotional and the spiritual, because our diaphragm has a hole in it. It massages our heart. So just doing diaphragmatic breathing can prevent heart disease. Our lymphatic system's in here, which is the pump. 70% of our toxicity leaves through the breath. So if we're not using our diaphragm fully, we're not activating the lymphatic system, because the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. So there are loads of benefits just physically oxygenating our whole system. And then mentally and emotionally, it helps us to get really clear, to have direction, to find out what our path is. What am I really here for? And so, mentally and emotionally, like we've said, heals anxiety, depression, so many benefits. On the mental and emotional level, helps us to not give a shit about what anybody thinks about us anymore.
Wonderful?
That is just on its own. Not caring about what anybody thinks, empowering ourselves to live our life and our truth. And then on the spiritual level, so as we've dug, like I say, we've cleared the subconscious, it leaves a space. So into that space is more of the juicy things that we've set our intentions for can fall into, because as we dig and clear that space, we can fill with more love, more joy, more energy, more creativity. It also helps us to align with synchronicity, because what we're actually doing, we're breathing in love, which we can call God's love, Goddess's love. We can call it the force, may the force be with you. We can call it spirit. It doesn't matter what name we give to it. There's no denomination or belief system with breathwork. I work with anybody, whatever religion or belief system, because we all believe in the power of love, and we're directly channeling that love, which is why I call myself Loving the Breath. And then we start to align with more synchronicity, so if we're looking to start a new project or do something new with our lives, things will I don't anymore have to. I'm always aligning with God, if you like, and I use that word as in spirit, that like when I opened my shop, that like when I started doing breathwork, it wasn't my choice. It just people kept telling me, it just kept coming in, and
that's
I just followed my path. Yeah, that's why I'm up. Because you just have to see everything as good, get lined up with that synchronicity, and then you're filling your whole body every day when you're breathing with that love. So you're raising your frequency, so you align with all the people that you meant to much more.
What a great
easily.
Purpose on the journey to you on, mate. Because you must be seeing the difference now. You've obviously made a big difference for you on a personal level. It's changing people's lives. Just people think. It's breathing,
incredible,
but it's not, is it? It's so important.
It's amazing to see people wake up and go on their path, find what they're meant to be.
Do you not find as well? So, like, you know, when you end up doing a job, what you truly love.
I call it schmirk. It's not work, it's schmirk.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is what a lot of people, again, they'll go through the whole life and they won't understand what we're on about. No. So like I wake up every day and I always say to people, like, I have the best job in the world, mate. Yeah. I get up when I want, do what I want, go to bed when I want, I could go where I want, I just do what I want, right?
Freedom.
But I've only been able to do that now because of the work that I put in to myself previously. Yeah, exactly. But to now have a job where you're sort of meeting new people, helping them realise their full potential, and, you know, giving them the skills of what you've learnt and your experiences, it's just a fantastic.
Yeah, incredible. It is, and it's not an easy journey. No, facing your fears, opening your breath can be really quite a struggle, and people go, oh, it's really hard work. I'm like, yeah, it's called breath work. So definitely. It is, that journey is extremely rewarding and amazing, but like getting there, you have to face your fears a lot. You have to do a lot of growing, you have to do a lot of self-reflecting and looking at yourself. So it's not an easy journey staying in your truth. No,
it's not. It's not.
But the results are incredible because you've free.
Yeah,
free from the past.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And what's good as well, just before, off the topic a little bit, but we said, because when we mention the word, like, sort of God, if you like, do you notice there's almost like a sudden hesitant in people when they're talking?
I'm saying God.
Yeah, it's almost as if like, well, you know, straight away it's like, well, or whatever you want to call it.
That's the old connotations of, you know, God fearing and God that's punishing and all of that, and we don't. It's not that.
A lot of, and everybody has that. Whereas, I mean, so like, it's almost as if you said, oh, the higher source, whatever you want to call it, you know. But it's almost like, because I do it myself. Like, I'm always trying to think of, well, you know, just because I might believe in God, I'm not saying you have to believe in it or whatever. You could just, you know.
God, goddess, goodness. It's goodness. We're breathing in goodness.
That's a nice way of looking at it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's goodness.
There's conditioning that as well, again, isn't it?
But yeah, all religions across the board, they will all agree. And we did this when Know Thyself and everything. All religions and science will agree, this universe or whatever it is, there is a higher force. There's something.
Exactly.
There is something.
A higher benevolent force.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There's a conspiracy to help you.
But you know, I think we could, as soon as people just accept that and get that off the table, I think that then straight away you could have more flowing conversations as well.
It's quite interesting, really, because I was going to ask you about, you know, the spiritual side of things. You know, people, if you're a religious person, you may have, you know, like with Reiki, you know, no, that's the devil's work. No, you don't do that. So does you're not getting any kind of religious people like that?
Yeah, but I think that's because the church has tried to manipulate things so that we're not connecting with source energy directly. You have to do it through them. But more, you know, a lot of religious people that I meet, where if they're ready to drop into this work, it's so powerful and it aligns perfectly with their belief system.
Definitely.
But if they're choosing to hold on and not accept that, then there's nothing.
I could find it very difficult, even for like the church or whatever, to have much resistance when it comes under the banner of breath work. Do you know what I mean? Because like with like Reiki and all that, what you're doing is because you're bringing in like the Master Miyoko Usui, and basically you're saying these. So now you're putting people, and where they say, oh yeah, they've got their own motives. But when you're talking about breath work,
breath, and you're just your connection with your higher self.
You know what I mean? Well, you're talking about one of the most natural things in the world, if not the most natural, and we're just talking about breathing. You know what I mean?
How dare you?
How dare you breathe? When you come in this church, you have to breathe a certain way.
I'm giving money as well.
And when you come in this mosque, you'll have to breathe a certain way. It's weird, but no, it's just interesting. I thought it.
No, you know what, Julian? It's been really fascinating. I really want to do, like I said, when we do carry on campings, because I've just never had the chance to drop in on your.
Oh, do you turn up and stuff like that?
What's that?
Do you do the carry on camping?
Yeah, I do. I've been doing breath work every morning on the main stage. It's been incredible.
See, I'm learning all these new things because I've never heard of it, and like Critch is introducing me to so many new people and all these wonderful things. So
we've got Tim with us next week, actually.
Is Tim on next week?
Oh, right, he's coming on here. Yeah, great.
Well, there you go. So we'll so we might see you at Carry On Camping then. We can do a bit of breathing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what we need to say though, because we always forget as well. Subscribe, please subscribe. We always forget.
Yeah. The more subscribers we get, the better. And then what we'll do is we'll put Julie Ann's information underneath,
without doubt,
and all the details. So if anybody wants to join your courses or learn to be a breathwork, because the people will be looking for new jobs and new ways, and
consciousness is changing. People are looking for that new thing now. So I think it's great, and benefiting yourself and others.
Yeah, well, that's why I originally did the breathwork training, not to become a facilitator, just because I was like, this is going to really go deeply and help me to clear. And the first part of the training is all about that, learning to self-breathe. So you need to learn how to do that yourself before you can do it with others. So
fantastic. And now, before we just watch, is there any other little stories that you might want to share with us about
stories are so many.
we always just try and get a little nugget off people if they want to share.
What about my story?
Like anything really, anything the viewers might think, whoa, never expected that.
Have you got any like big sort of testimonials in terms of like if anyone come and said, Julie Ann, what you've just done?
Yeah, I can give you loads of little things. So these are the sort of things that shift and happen. I had one young lady, Lexi, from Bournemouth, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, who actually in a session, probably 20 years ago, jumped up out of a session and went, right, this is what I've got to do. And I think got her own chair in a salon, and then she went on to teach yoga, and her life has completely changed. But then
like a realisation.
Just a realisation, and started to shift things so people can just have realisations about that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I remember having a lady who, this is funny, she was like, wanted to get back into being a therapist, and had time off to look after her husband who was really poorly. And then I think she came for a first session, and the next week she came for a session. She goes, you won't believe what happened last week. She goes, I was driving along and my husband said, park there, and she went, fuck off. And she went, never. But because I got her to breathe
releasing the breath.
I was like, now we need to get you to do it a bit more politely. But that was so empowering. Empowering for her that she'd actually stood in her power and said,
fuck off.
spoken her mind. And then I remember having another lady who was like just getting so irritated by her mother, who was old and cantankerous, and she was looking after her, and she was like, I want to fucking kill her, she's driving me nuts. She came the next week, she goes, everything she says to me now just goes right over my head. So it just helps people to let go to just those little subtle things that can be the most powerful, because that's life changing, isn't it? That you're not bothered about, you get less bothered about people projecting out. You just know they're projecting. You just
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And just Wasco, so without putting you too much on the spot, because obviously I showed you around before, and we've got a new studio that's going to be ready soon.
Yeah, that's good.
And then, so what I'm thinking, with all them 24 years of knowledge, could we maybe possibly get you back to do a little introduction to breath work to our listeners, something where they could watch and you could show them, and then basically then if they wanted to book and come and see you and learn and all this kind of stuff. So basically, because it'd be great if we could have all these amazing guests that we got on who show a little bit of what they're doing, and we could say, look, you can see it firsthand here, try before you buy, if you kind of thing. Do you know
just
what I mean?
a little introduction, what it is, how it works, all of that, and then do a little demonstration so I can show you how you do that breathing analysis and how you actually do the breath, so you can do a daily practice.
I think it'd just be a great little introduction, and then people say, do you know what, I'm going to take this to the next level now, and then they can look at the link and find out how to get when you're in the area. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
And with that, should we call that a wrap?
That was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie Ann. That was really great for us. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much.
And we've not seen the last year then either, have we?
No, not yet.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.